In today's UK classrooms, white British children are no longer the majority. Let that sink in. The culture that built Britain is now a minority presence in its own schools. Is this progress or erasure? What you're about to hear, no one in power dares to say out loud. It started slowly, quietly, without headlines or debates. No sirens, no breaking news. One by one, classrooms across the United Kingdom began to change. At first, it was subtle, a few shifts in accents, names on Theregister, and packed lunch contents. Then the school plays changed, holiday events were renamed. And now, in 2025, in many parts of the country, the unthinkable is a reality. White British children are no longer the majority. Let that sink in. The group that once defined blatantly, demographically, and historically finds itself the minority in many UK classrooms. This isn't speculation, it's sparking one of the most sensitive and suppressed conversations in modern British society. What does it mean to be British when your children are outnumbered in their own country? Let's talk numbers for a moment. According to the last National Census and follow-up education data, cities like London, Birmingham, and Leicester already reflect majority-minority status, meaning no single ethnic group, including white British, holds the majority share of the population. But go into a classroom in East London or inner-city Manchester, and the trend is even more pronounced. In some schools, only 5 to 10% of pupils are white British. The majority are made up of South Asian, African, Eastern European, Middle Eastern, and other backgrounds. Now pause and ask yourself, why aren't we allowed to talk about this? Why is a demographic change of this scale treated like a taboo? This isn't about farmongering, it's not about racism. It's about identity, heritage, and belonging. 3 things every community is entitled to protect, regardless of background. Imagine growing up in a country where your culture is no longer reflected around you. Imagine being told your national identity is outdated, your traditions are in silence, and your history is of teed. That's the reality many young white British children are facing in multicultural Britain. From cancelled nativity plays to renamed Christmas events, from no uniform days for every global cause but none for British history. A generation is being told, subtly but consistently, that their heritage is either something to apologize for, something that simply doesn't matter anymore. Let's be brutally honest here. For decades, politicians from all sides of the spectrum pushed the narrative of multiculturalism. The idea was beautiful in theory, a diverse, inclusive Britain where all cultures are celebrated. But what happens when a culture, the native one, is no longer celebrated at all? Because that's what's happening now. In the name of Britishness is being watered down, stripped of its symbols, its language, and even its heroes. Schools are afraid to teach certain parts of British history. Teachers hesitate to praise traditional values in case they're labeled exclusionary. Meanwhile, new arrivals are encouraged to hold tightly to their cultural identity. And rightly so, every culture should be proud. But where does that leave the original one? The one you built the schools, the institutions, the language, and the legal system. It's not about opposing immigration. Let's be clear on that. Britain has always been a land of movement and mixing. That's nothing new, but immigration without integration is a recipe for fragmentation. When communities live side by side but don't share values, traditions, or even language, what holds the nation together? When British kids grow up learning more about other cultures than their own, how can they feel rooted in their identity? And when being proud of being British is viewed as controversial, is it any surprise that many feel like strangers in their own land? This isn't just about schools. It's a reflection of what's happening across society. We see it in the media, where British stories are often rewritten, repackaged, or ignored. We see it in politics, where defending national identity is labeled far. We even see it in sports, where national teams struggle with whether to sing their own anthem. Now, some will argue this is progress, that Britain is evolving, that identity is fluid. Maybe, but ask yourself this. Would any other country accept the erasure of its majority identity without question? Would Pakistan, Japan, Nigeria, Poland? No, and they shouldn't, because culture matters. Identity matters. You cannot build a future if you erase the past. We are not saying diversity is bad. Far from it. Diversity done right is powerful, but it must be anchored in something shared, a core identity everyone is part of. Not one group is pushed out of and right now, the very group that should be holding the cultural lantern, white British children, are being told to let go. Imagine what that does to a child's sense of self. Imagine walking into a classroom where you are the odd one out, where your name, your history, and your festivals aren't reflected, where you're constantly reminded to check your privilege, even if you're working class, struggling, or overlooked. That's not progress. That's alienation. And if we keep pretending it isn't happening, it will only get worse. We need to ask hard questions. Why is there no national conversation about protecting British culture? Why are classrooms not teaching every child regardless of background to respect the country they're in, its history, and its customs? Why are we more afraid of being called intolerant than of losing our cultural foundations? Britain is at a crossroads. We can either continue down a path of silence, shame, and slow cultural decay, or we can speak up. We can demand balanced education. We can celebrate all cultures without erasing the one that gave them a home. And, most importantly, we can teach our children to be proud, truly proud, of being British. Because once identity is gone, once history is forgotten, there's no getting it back. If you believe British culture still matters, now is the time to speak up. Don't just scroll past this. Hit like, share this video, and leave a comment below. Are we preserving British identity, letting it slip away? Your voice could be the one that keeps the conversation alive. Subscribe to know before silence becomes the norm.